you bringing us to 5.
Yes, we're good.
Sorry? We're good?
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order, back to order at 11:22. And welcome everyone, whether you're joining in person or online. We are moving back from closed, where the board conducted business under section 44(2) of the Community Safety and Policing Act, including confidential matters related to labor relations, finance, and legal matters, of which the board will have to return back to after the public session. I'm pleased to share that the board has reviewed consulting proposals and selected Abanis as an independent firm that will lead the community engagement consultations for our strategic planning process, which you may have heard me speak about at previous board meetings. In July, the board approved the initiation to develop the next strategic plan and directed that an external agency be engaged to gather board meaningful community, to be engaged to gather board and meaningful community input. The Community Safety and Policing Act has stringent legislative guidelines around obtaining community input through this process, and this board recognizes the importance of exceeding these requirements to ensure a comprehensive and collaborative outcome that reflects the needs of the city and the residents. The board will be working closely with Abanis to design a consultation approach that ensures we hear from a wide range of voices and receive thoughtful and comprehensive feedback. We welcome all members of the public to connect with us through our website or by email at lpsb@lpsb.ca. Additional details on how to participate in the consultation process will be shared in the weeks to come. For those who were unable to attend the start of our open session this morning, we have now sworn in our newest member, Mike Wallace. Mike, welcome. I'm just going to go back and give a bit of another brief rundown of your bio. Mr. Wallace brings an extensive public service experience, including chairing the Justice and Human Rights Committee in Parliament, where he served as a member of Parliament in Burlington, as well as serving on the Finance Committee. His work has been recognized with the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal and the Order of Japan. In London, he has been an active member of the Whole of Community Response to Health and Homelessness and the Chamber of Commerce Government Relations Committee. As Executive Director of the London Development Institute, he offers strong insight into planning and community development. His experience in government and community leadership will support the board's work to strengthen public safety and trust. And earlier this morning, Mike was sworn in public by our legal counsel, Kathy Bruni. So Mike, welcome to the board. I would also like to announce as well that we have been advised by the province that Dr. Haley Faulkner will no longer be a member serving on the London Police Service Board, and that is effective now. So moving on to a call for disclosures of interest. Anyone, members? Seeing none. Introduction of new business? Seeing none, approval of minutes from the October 16, 2025 LPSB open meeting. Moved by Vice Chair Branscombe, seconded by Member Stevenson. Any comments? Errors, omissions? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Vice Chair Branscombe.
On number 2, I'd like to move that it will be referred to a future meeting.
Perfect. Can I have a seconder on that, please? Member Wallace, thank you. Anyone opposed to that amendment to the agenda? Seeing no one, that is carried. Okay, and just a note as well that we do have acting Deputy Chief Blair Harvey with us today, sitting to the right of Deputy Guilford, who will be speaking on behalf of Deputy Trina McSween for any reports that fall under her jurisdiction. She's on annual leave currently. Moving on to item number 3, the London Police Service Board Oversight and Statutory Compliance. 3.1, the IOP CSPA Procedural Complaint 24-291, Report 2511 UDO1, and I'll turn it over to our Executive Director as well as Deputy Chief Guilford.
So this is another one of the policy procedure complaints that go to the board. And so the attached to the investigation report, it's currently the board's process to immediately request an investigation report back from the chief when one of these complaints comes in. It's the board's responsibility to look at the aspects of the complaint that have a nexus to policy. So we have done that, and there is a nexus to the victim assistance policy, just some general language amendments. So that's going to be coming forward for approval at the next meeting. So that's our part of it. And then in terms of the part that has to do with the processes of the service, I will turn it over to, or I will turn it back to you, Chair.
Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Deputy Gilbert.
Thank you, and Chair, through you. Just in terms of the investigation, I want to give a quick review, just so everybody has some knowledge of it and understands what we've done as far as correcting these issues. So back in October of last year, mother called in about her adult son. She hadn't heard from him for a while, was concerned about his welfare. It's a not uncommon call that we end up going on. We ended up attending his address where we ended up finding him deceased in his apartment. Not through criminal means at all, but through the investigation, we routinely bring in the coroner to come in and conduct an investigation. They're there under the authority of the Coroner's Act and can give direction to the police under that same act. So what happened in that case, we did have a fairly junior supervisor that was on scene, and the coroner indicated that they would end up making the notification to the family of the death. That ended up happening, but it ended up being a phone call to the family. And I think everybody who's a parent here in this family would not want to get a phone call letting them know their child had passed away from anybody. That's something where we should have gone in person, and we actually do have a procedure in place to do that. What I would have liked to have seen is that supervisor engage the doctor that attended in some conversation to say, hey, listen, Doc, I appreciate that, but we should be going in person. We have victim services that we can bring to bear if we need it right away. And that should, I don't see a doctor anywhere saying, no, we're not going to do it that way. So the mother ended up making this complaint, rightfully so, just to ensure that we were doing things properly. So I've done a number of things with this. Again, in looking at this from a strictly procedural point, we do have procedure that fits this criteria that we should have followed, and it just didn't happen at that time. So what I have done is I have had the supervisors talk to the officers and the supervisor who were on scene that day, make sure they to teach them to make sure they do things properly in the future, and then they learn from this. Number two, I've directed our duty inspectors to talk to each of our patrol sections, right, for the officers that are going to be facing this, going to these calls in the future, to talk with them to ensure that they are reminded of the importance of getting to the family in person and talking to them in person. I'm the supervisor going to do that. Number three, I actually reached out to the complainant in this case as well. I talked to her the other day by phone. Just to apologize, number one, on behalf of the service for not going there in person, and just to assure her that we should have been there and it should have been handled differently. So she was very receptive to that, thankfully, but I didn't think they'd right. I didn't want to wait any longer. She's already been waiting for a year with this. So as soon as I had everything straightened out as far as what had happened, I made sure I called her to, again, to offer condolences and apologize for how that happened. So that, in essence, is the report before the board.
Thank you, Deputy. I appreciate the detail there. The additional context. Members, is there any questions? Vice Chair Branscombe.
So then I'd like to, this is a conclusion, so the board shall consider the attached information to determine whether to conclude its review of the file along with its response to the inspector of policing. So however we have to move that, I think we would like to conclude that we're concluded.
Sure. So we do have a motion of trying that I'll read out loud and then ask for action. One, that the London Police Service Board conclude its review of the complaint and advise the Inspector General of Policing of the steps taken, including a copy of the report received from the Chief of Police. And number two, that we ensure that the complainant, is notified by the determination made regarding this complaint. So moved by Vice Chair Branscombe. Seconder, please. Member Stevenson. Further commentary on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 3.2 in the public agenda, which is tentative meeting and conference dates. Generally, the London Police Service Board meetings are held on the third Thursday of the month. It is, however, sometimes necessary to reschedule closer to the date if conflicts arise. For example, we're meeting on a Monday, so a prime example today. So the report is included for information purposes and outlines the tentative dates. It also indicates as well different conferences. This board has been very open and transparent about the need for members to attend certain conferences around police governance in order for us to carry out our duties as a civilian oversight body of the London Police Service. This report includes several of those conferences that are accepted and appropriate for board members to attend, including the Canadian Association of Police Governance conferences, both their winter summit and their annual conference, the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, the Ontario Association of Police Boards, or the OAPSB as it's commonly referred, the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference as well, and the Canadian Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. So with that report on the floor, is there any questions or concerns from board members on that report? Member Wallace.
It's not really a concern. I just need to know that there's a couple of dates here that I previously booked. Can a board member join the meeting virtually?
Yes, they can. We do have that ability, not to put her on the spot, but due to some commitments, Vice Chair Branscombe has to attend virtually as well. So there certainly is that ability. We do a hybrid model.
I'll try to keep the palm trees out of the generator.
Okay.
And the
I'll try to keep my jealousy at the minimum. So
I don't think it matters much, but just so you know, the March 19th is during March break. But based on what's around the horseshoe, I don't think it's going to matter too much. But
awesome.
just to give you a heads up, just in case.
Thank you, Member Wallace. Further comments on this report? Seeing none, I'll just have a motion to accept that report, please, and move forward with the scheduled dates as well as the conferences that have been noted. And then we'll circulate that amongst the board for members who will have interest. So moved by Member Branscombe, Vice Chair Branscombe, excuse me, seconded by Member Stevenson. Any further discussion on that, on the meeting dates for the conferences that were noted? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Next, we'll be moving on to item 3.3 in your public agenda, which is the critical points policy. It's report number 2511 PB02. And I'm going to turn it over to our executive director for a bit more context on that.
Chair. So I'm presenting the critical points policy for board approval. This policy creates a clear framework for how the board and the service share information and prepare for significant high risk or fast moving events. A critical point is an event of strategic significance that is time sensitive and rapidly increases the operational, financial, reputational, or enterprise risk. Examples include major incidents, large scale events requiring planning, matters involving vulnerable communities, SIU invoked situations, or issues likely to draw significant public attention. The Inspector General of Policing has advised all municipal police boards to adopt a critical points policy. This type of policy was first recommended in the Morton Report on the independent civilian review into matters related to the G20 Policing Summit in Toronto. That review emphasized the need for clear board and service information flow and stronger civilian oversight during major events. The Inspector General has now reiterated that recommendation to adopt such a policy and advised all municipal police boards to move forward with the critical points policy. This is meant to enhance civilian oversight and ensure boards are prepared, aligned with provincial expectations, and able to act quickly when major events arise. So this attached policy here, it sets out how critical points are identified, what information the chief must provide to the chair, how updates will occur, and how the board can set objectives and priorities while, of course, respecting the chief's operational authority and staying in the realm of governance. It also includes expectations around training and opportunities for public communication where appropriate. So the recommendation is to adopt the policy in family say.
Questions, members? Seeing none, we have a motion that states that the London Police Service Board approve the critical points policy, Appendix A, as recommended by the Honorable John W. Morton in his 2012 report of the Independent Civilian Review into matters relating to the G20 Summit, commonly referred to as the Morton Report. Can I have someone move that motion, please? Member Lehman, seconded by Member Morgan. Oh, sorry. He seconded it. So I was a competition of hands. So I'll go with member Morgan for that one. Any further comments on this policy? Yes, Vice Chair Branscombe.
This doesn't make sense to anybody in the public. Like, there were a couple of really serious things that happened in the past that caused this board report to happen. And I think people need to know that there was a real conundrum in Ottawa and in Toronto about some of these events, and it wasn't smooth. And that's why this came forward. So I love the reports, but if I'm Joe Key public out there listening to this, I don't even know what they're talking about. So is there a way to kind of elaborate on, just quickly on kind of an example or two of what happened and why this morning report came forward? Because it's pretty important for this marriage between the board and the police service. So I mean, I'm happy to have this, but I think it's important to know why too.
Want to elaborate?
Yeah, and I won't comment obviously on any operational matters, and there might be more context on the LPS side. But the G20 report, it was to examine the planning and policy framework surrounding the G20 summit that was held in Toronto in 2010. And it focused on the role of the police service and of course also the board's oversight role in that matter. There was a lot of accusations of excessive force and civil liberties violations. So that is why this report came to be. And then there were recommendations stemming from it with respect to the board's role in terms of oversight and having access to information so that they can properly execute their duties if something like that happens.
I think it's been, should be noted too, that it's been clear that the Inspector General, Brian Teschner, this is very important. He really sees that there needs to be an alignment between the governance oversight body, being the board, as well as the service, and there needs to be this communication happening while both parties are respecting their lanes of governance and of operations. So the IG has really indicated how necessary this is, and we're committed to making sure that we do everything in our power to abide by those requests and also to improve our service and the communication which we have. I do have to say that we are lucky, this board and with our current command and the collaboration between the board and the service is exceptional for what we need to do as oversight officers of being civilian overseeing this police service. And I do want to commend the chief and his team for that productive communication. It's not always easy. We don't always agree, but it's fluid and it's there, and the best interests of Londoners in the service are always at the forefront. So just add that context also.
I'll just say that for me, it's always really important. We've got a board that takes this job really seriously, every single board member. And we're unlikely to have the kinds of problems they've had elsewhere, but this kind of just reinforces that won't happen going forward. So I think this is a really important policy to adopt. So thank you.
Any further comments before I call the question or questions? Seeing none, there's a motion on the floor. Is anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 4 on the public agenda, an overview of our HR department, report 2511 HR01, and we also have a presentation, and we're going to receive the presentation from the services human resources team, and it's going to be led today by Acting Deputy Chief Harvey, who has members of the team here as well. And as part of our oversight role, the board regularly invites sections of the service to present their work to help deepen our understanding and support informed government's decisions. You will have noticed we've had many presentations come through. One of the most popular ones being the K9 unit. You have a dog here today, but also too, we've had our nurse and police officer response team. We've done a lot of different presentations in different areas in our service, and we will continue to do that so that both the board and the public become more aware of all the amazing things that are done. It's not, leasing isn't as simple as some think it is, and I think it's very important for that spirit of transparency that we continue to drill down on all the great work that's being done within the service to provide a first response to Londoners. So it's especially timely as well, the presentation, because at the December board meeting, we will be adopting the diversity plan to uphold our CSPA requirement that the board ensure the membership reflects the diversity of the community we serve. This is a governance plan established as a guideline for the service in developing its operational equity, diversity, and inclusion plan. The board remains committed to building a police service that reflects, respects, and includes the full diversity in London. And this includes embracing the many identities, experiences, and perspectives that strengthen our community. And on that note, I'll invite Acting Deputy Harvey to introduce the presentation on behalf of Deputy Mixwell.
Thank you, Chair Goss, through you. We're pleased to have a presentation today about the Human Resources Division. The board report provides a high-level overview of the aspects in which HR supports our organization. Superintendent Chris Cherney and HR Manager Justin Henry are with us today to provide us with a presentation on the various functions of HR, including talent acquisition, leadership support, and member wellness. In attendance for the presentation as well are some of our HR and recruiting sworn members and police professionals to watch and support the presentation. So I will turn it over to Chris and Justin.
That's servant leadership right there. Give him the comfy chair. With the keyboard tray.
And sorry, just before we get started, did we mention that there's other members of our HR team in the room as well? Will we, just before we go forward, would you mind just introducing them as well? I want to make sure that we acknowledge their hard work as well. There's been some really good things coming out of our HR department.
Thank you, Chair. It would be our pleasure. So there's many of our folks from our HR division. I think this is probably the highest attendance rate. And all we had to tell them is that we were going to be bragging about them for about 10 minutes. So, on the sworn side, we have some of our officers from the recruiting outreach and member care section, which is led by Staff Sergeant Mike Kukoc. And on our HR section, we have many members. We have representation from our HR specialists, HR generalists, our HR coordinators. Our psychological services coordinator is also with us today.
Well, thank you. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the board for all the work that you do. With the budget, with the mayor's budget that was approved a couple of years ago, with the work that's being done, with the investments that have been made into police service, I just want to note that there's been a significant strain put on our HR department to hit those numbers and to get people in the building, make sure that we're filling those critical positions. And it doesn't go unnoticed by this board. We know how much work has been done. We know how much effort is put in to hit those targets and make sure that the hard-earned taxpayer dollars that have been allotted to this service are being utilized so that we can build a police service that delivers first-rate service for Londoners. So thank you on behalf of the board to all of you for the work you do every day. And on that, I'll turn it back to you, Superintendent Cherney.
Thank you, Chair. See, I told you it was going to be fun. It's an absolute pleasure to join you today. So my name is Chris Cherney, and I have the honor of leading the Human Resources Division. I've had the good fortune over the past 25 years to work in a lot of different areas in this police service, in the investigative side, in enforcement, and administrative. And for about the past 18 months, I've been with the Human Resources Division.
I am Justin Henry. I'm the manager of Human Resources here with the London Police Service. I've been with the service now just over a year. It's been a really great year. I've learned a tremendous amount and garnered even more respect for the individuals that work here. I've been practicing in HR for nearly 20 years. I'm always working in public service, public sector, and just an honor to continue my career in HR, working alongside this amazing team back here, because without them, we couldn't do it. So yeah, my hats off and respect to every single one of them.
Okay, and as we sort of go through about our 10-minute presentation here, you'll see various photos of some of our staff. So on our title slide here, we have Staff Sergeant Mike Kukoc and Constable Adam Nowakowski, who are both on the recruiting side. Just what we hope to accomplish today is just to give you a very bird's eye view of our division, sort of our structure, the different roles in each of the teams, and then a few fun facts of some of the work that they do in each of the teams. In a general sense, the division, we're small but mighty. We're divided into 3 distinct groups. So we have the Human Resources section, which is run and led by Justin Henry. We have the Recruiting, Outreach, and Member Care section, which is subdivided into our Recruiting Unit and our Member Care and Organizational Wellness Unit, and we call that MCAL for short. So you'll hear me reference AmCal a few points during this presentation. And I will note here that, all those distinct and separate, the recruiting unit and MCAL unit are pretty much joined at the hip in terms of their interoperability and how they complement each other's services. And last but not least, we have psychological services. So we are absolutely blessed in our police service to have a staff psychologist, Dr. Khan. He wasn't able to join us today, but Dana, who is their psychological services coordinator, is in the back of the room. Drilling down into the recruiting section, we have a staff sergeant. And as I had mentioned in the 2 units, that is our authorized complement. So in our recruiting unit, we have a sergeant and 2 constables. And then our MCAL unit, we have a sergeant whose role is the reintegration coordinator, and a constable, Shayna, who's in the back as well today, and she's our peer support coordinator. And then we have a civilian police professional. Casey is our wellness coordinator. I would be remiss not to mention at this point that our recruiting section is also bolstered from time to time with the resource of an accommodated member from time to time. Many of our members, when they're coming back from extended leaves, their pathway back to full-time work can take different routes, and our service is very good at finding meaningful, accommodated work for members. And recruiting has been the recipient of some really great members who are temporarily transferred to us on their pathway back to full-time work. And these past couple of years, we would not have been able to do the work that we have been tasked with without the help and support of these members as well. I know that the board is well aware of the hiring challenges, especially over the past couple of years. We're certainly well aware of it, and it's a challenge that we were excited about and we took head on. So our teams, between myself, Justin's team, and Mike Kukoch's team, we really had to take a step back and reimagine the process just in terms of the hiring process. And what we found was there is no silver bullet or panacea of anything that we could do that would speed up the process. But what we found was there was a bunch of little tweaks to the process. Then when you put it all together, it really allowed for the flow of applicants along their pathway to being hired. I won't go through all of them, but like some little things, like modernization in our technology. We interview a lot of people, and having transcription software to kind of aid us with those interviews and cut down on the time to take notes afterward has been a huge time saver. Another thing that I think has had a lot of impact is just our philosophy. And I kind of call it the glass half full type of philosophy. Right from the very first fitness test, when we are looking at an applicant, we are already picturing that person as a member of our service. And so right from the very get-go, we are planning and scheduling every stage of recruitment for that individual. When we came in, years ago, it used to be a little segmented where, there's many stages in the hiring process, and we would wait, was the person successful? Okay, let's schedule stage 2. Was the person successful? Let's schedule stage 3. Right from the get-go now, we map it all out, and we are already envisioning that person being successful. And then, as long as they are and they acquire the necessary requirements at each stage, the flow is much better. It's much easier to cancel meetings, cancel panels, cancel appointments than it is to keep on booking them. And we've found that we've been really able to drastically reduce the time from, our outreach in the community to the time that a member is signing the job offer. So I'll say this in terms of community outreach. That is a function that is really mentored by the executive command team and adopted by everybody in our policing organization, sworn in civilians. The small segment that we do in the recruiting and outreach, the co-op programs is something we're very, very proud of. A huge opportunity is to engage with high school students, and over the past years, we would sometimes have 0 to 1 or 2 high school co-op students in. This year, we've had 10. So these are students from all over the city who, have shown an interest in policing. So we're trying to get them in at a very young age to expose them to our organization. We also do the same with colleges. So we have programs in place with Fanshawe and Trios College where we bring in co-op students as well. And then the other two I'll mention, the Youth in Policing Initiative, where we partner with community services. This summer, as an example, we had 30 YIPI students, which is a great exposure for our police service. And then the auxiliary program, these folks are, volunteers who really straddle, the bridge between our communities and our policing organization. Our team just partnered up with community services and hired 14 new auxiliary members. They're going through their training right now, and upon conclusion of their training, we'll be returning to the board to designate them. But that's another excellent outreach program where we can have reach into the communities. That's Steve, one of our outreach constables, and that's a young fella from a job fair at Oneida Nation that we were at this year. And I just wanted to put out there that, like this year alone, our members back there, so both on the sworn side and our civilian police professionals, we're at 41 different events this year in the city, in London, and the surrounding areas to meet people where they're at and really try to position the LPS as an employer of choice. So this slide here, and I'll be the first to admit, it's just flexing a little bit. It is showing the progression of our sworn recruitment over the years, right? And as you can see, in 2020, we had, hired 8 constables. And fast forward that to this year, where we hired 72 constable recruits that we sent to the Ontario Police College. And in addition to that, our cadet program. So, the cadets who usually spend a year to 2 helping out with their cell block and over at the courthouse on their transition to becoming a constable. So this year we hired 25 of them. Once we have numbers in the door, then it's important to look after everybody's well-being. And from the chiefs on down, that's been an organizational priority. Our MCAL team, I'll just bring up to light a couple of their main functions. So our peer support coordinator, so Constable Jana Winches, she leads a team of 60 peer supporters. So these are officers, civilians, retired members at every rank and then every different team in this organization. And they have a secondary duty of being a peer supporter. When members are going through a tough time, they are there to listen. They are not trained counselors, but what they are trained in is providing referrals and being that person to let members know that they're not alone in a particular challenge that they're going through. A program that has been absolutely lights out, successful, and by success, one member coming back after a long time being away is, I would deem a success, but we've helped a number of members coming back after being away. So the sergeant of our MCAL unit is a trained reintegration officer. So that is a program where if somebody has been on an extended leave for a variety of reasons, it can be an occupational stress injury, it can be a physical injury, it can be coming back from a parental leave after a year. There's certain anxiety in coming back to work and coming back into the building. So they will tailor make a program for that individual to expose them to different aspects of the work and the workplace to get them back into full use. And in the photo there, so that standing up is Dana, our psychological service coordinator, and that's Ashley, one of our HR coordinators. As mentioned, we are extremely lucky to have our in-staff psychologist, so Dr. Khan, and he supports our members through dedicated counseling and therapy, so our members can book sessions with him. He's also, a staple at, parades, visiting the Ontario Police College, different team meetings and stuff like that to engage in an informal atmosphere with our members to provide support. And our psychological services branch, so Dr. Khan and Dana integrate quite often with our MCAL team, supporting members. This next slide here, I just, I thought it was important to bring not so much the metrics of how busy Dr. Khan and Dana are, but one piece of data that I'm really, really proud of there is the member sessions. So, hundreds of times a year, our members are booking an appointment with Dr. Khan to talk about their wellness. And I think that is huge. When I can remember years ago when we hired a staff psychologist and wondering, like, are staff gonna use it? Are they gonna utilize this resource? And the answer is yes, it absolutely utilized. In addition to just the member sessions, Dr. Khan and that team support all of our hiring. We do psychological assessments on all new constables, cadets, special constables, communications operators. So they're quite a busy team. I'll turn it over to my friend here to talk a little bit about the HR section.
Fantastic. Thank you, Superintendent Cherney. So the Human Resources section is fully staffed by civilian police professionals. And all of these roles do require both educational background as well as past working experience working in human resources. And really important to note that 7 of our positions do require the incumbent to hold their professional HR designation. And why that's important is because that is a signal that it ensures we're meeting both standards of competence, standards of ethics, standards of professionalism, and helps strengthen organizational credibility when it comes to leading HR practices. It also promotes consistent and high quality HR practices across the organization, which is really key for a public service organization such as ourselves. In addition, important to highlight that the organization has invested in the HR division over the last couple of years, with a number of these positions being new to the organization and or growing positions, and all in support of a growing police service as well as a growing city, and how we will continue to meet the needs of our members, our leadership, and support our folks that do our frontline work. And so we wanted to just highlight here really quickly in areas in which the HR division helps support London Police Service, its members, as well as leadership. So I won't read the slide there over, but just some high level pieces. But in addition to this, in terms of supporting our folks, members and leadership across the organization, we've recently launched an HR business partner model in which we've paired a coordinator, a generalist, and a specialist, as well as working on the abilities management piece as well across the organization to help support, build relationships, proactive service delivery model so that we're able to stay ahead of the curve and the pulse on kind of any HR matters. As well as create ownership within the team in terms of work and projects that they can do to support the organization. Would be remiss if we did not talk about our phenomenal abilities management team and the work that they do in partnership with MCAL. So Superintendent Cherney outlined a big piece of MCAL is peer support and reintegration when folks are coming back to work. And our abilities management team on the civilian professional side helps support that work as well. So just in terms of some of the data or the stats outlined on this slide, in the table on return to work, those are all unique members based on where they started their return to work journey, whether that was an accommodated member of returning to work, somebody who's able to return to work full duties. And then the two bullet points, both at 2024 and 2025, the 4 and 7 respective members there, totaling 11. Those were really good news stories for us as an organization. And so I just wanted to take a moment to highlight the work that the abilities management team does, as well as MCOW, to get folks and our members back to work. So these 11 members did not have a positive prognosis for a return to work. They had date of injuries of 2+ years, which according to WSIB and Better at Work principles, the prognosis for return to work dramatically reduces after 6 months of absence from the workplace. Some stats peg that at 50% in terms of prognosis for return to work. So these 11 members did meet a threshold in terms of an assessment when we looked at the date of injury plus the nature of their injury. And the abilities management team, in partnership, working very closely with MCOW, being creative with solutions, looking at alternate ways of doing things, we're able to return these 11 members back to work, which is a huge positive for our service, for our members, both from an individual providing meaningful work back to the service and the community that they serve. So those were really, those were great success stories that we felt needed highlighting here. This slide here, picture is Manya Sharma. She's one of our HR generalists, so works really closely with our civilian police professional recruitment. But wanted to just highlight our recruitment processes. We do have an internal process by which we follow, and it's very similar as it's outlined in the bullet points below A through E, my apologies. But really just highlighting the steps that are all involved with welcoming new members to our organization. And really what this does is it helps ensure that we are measuring the right knowledge, skill, and ability, that we are reaching candidates, and that we are ensuring that we have the right person in the right chair at the right time for us based on our need as an organization. And to that, just thought it was important to kind of talk about some unique and new roles to our organization. So highlighting a few positions here, but would really like to focus on our digital content coordinator and our web developer as we have some discussion here this morning. And why we're focusing on those is there were some unique aspects that we took to the recruitment process to ensure that we were really able to ensure we were evaluating the correct KSAs, knowledge, skill, and abilities for our process. So to achieve that, we engaged with a subject matter expert with another police service that was able to graciously lend us some of their time that do some of this work to help us develop our evaluation tools and metrics. We designed candidate testing strategies to ensure that we had a fulsome understanding of the candidate's skills and abilities and context of the role. And that we were able to ensure that the work that they were going to be able to bring and produce for us was also aligned with organizational strategies and priorities. So really highlighting those as it just was in support of our mission, vision, and strategic direction as an organization to move some of these rules forward.
And just before we move on to the next slide, I think it's really cool to see like some of the unique roles that our police service is bringing on, right? So folks out in the public can really see, right, like how we're growing and how we're really bringing some specialty areas to bear in our service.
And still staying with recruitment as we wrap up, just be remiss to kind of not highlight the number of vacancies that we were able to recruit for, as well as the number of applications that we've received primarily in 2024. So this really is just a quick highlight of our both in our internal recruitment statistics, the chart above, as well as external applications and postings that were led. So for some of these postings, they are unique posting, but we may have multiple incumbents, so we may have posted for 2 jobs within these. But we've also really seen a marked increase in our volume of applications. And for me, this highlights 2 things, so that we are getting our message out, that we are recruiting and advertising in the correct locales to garner the applications, but that importantly, external candidates do see LPS as an employer of choice, which is really important, particularly in tough labor markets where we are looking to recruit an individual with skills that are in high demand. Particularly IT continues to be skills ever evolving that are in high demand by multiple employers. And it's well balancing, a key from the COVID era around remote work. A lot of employers are looking at that as candidate retention strategies. So we're finding that as a balance. And one piece that I did as we talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion within this grouping, 24% of the external applicants that we have hired through 23 to 25 year to date have self-identified as being a diverse member. So really happy to see those stats increasing and that we are able to have a measurable outcome on them. So with that, I would say thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you would have for myself or the superintendent.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate it. I assume there will be some questions from the members, so I will take a list. Members,
thank you very much for the presentation and congratulations on the success with the return to work. I just wondered too, if as you get that success in the return to work, if it builds upon itself and that it becomes maybe more normalized for people to come back or they see success, that it might encourage others. Do you see that? Through the chair. Yeah,
and through the chair, I can say in conversations that I'm having with Jamie Burton, who's one of our facilities management specialists, she's back here, and Josh Clatworthy, we are hearing members, and it is spreading through the grapevine about the great work that teams are doing, and that they are being heard, and that it's not a one size fits all approach in working with that. And I'll share, we're also getting that feedback from our colleagues at the WSIB. We recently had a return to work meeting in which one of the program managers, I believe, Jamie, at the WSIB shared that she has been very impressed with the work that we're doing. Wished all employers would take an approach that we are taking with welcoming our members back. And that it's not surprising based on that approach that we are starting to see more garnered success with folks coming back to work where perhaps they may have been marked or deemed permanently disabled from that point forward. So we're seeing a lot of success in membership incentive.
I have nothing to add. I think you answered that perfectly.
No, thank you very much for the work done there.
Before we move on, I just wanted to once again thank you for the work and thank you for that extensive presentation. It's appreciated. I did just have some comments around some of the unique hiring that's been done, including the digital content coordinator and the web developer as well. One thing that this board has heard a lot about when we joined back in 2023, most of us, it was the lack of communication coming out of the London Police Service and the fact that only traditional communication was being done and that it was kind of, lack of a better term, stuck in the past. One thing I've heard greatly is appreciation from the community, and I will say as from a governance perspective, great appreciation that we've really taken a firm commitment to transparency. So I really appreciate what the service has done in that to reach other people within the community through different mediums. I have to say that the video work that's been done, I believe has been essential to tell part of the story. Like, this isn't just flash, this is substance. This is the way that we need to communicate with people. So I appreciate that we're looking outside the box and trying to get new and creative people into a police service that may not have resided here before. But I did want to share that the feedback coming from the community is one that they feel more informed. We still have a lot of work to do, let me be clear, and I think there's other channels that we need to look at, but we're starting to see the, the fruits of the labor, so to speak, and especially from the significant investment that was made by city council into this police service. So I just wanted to encourage you to push forward with that and continue to have those conversations on how we can better serve the public. For me, that's how it always comes back to. You've heard me say a million times at this board that morale is one of the reasons I got involved in the police service board, morale within this service, and we're seeing that it's improved greatly. But there's also the morale of the community that we have to be worried about as well, and how they receive the police service. And we're seeing that has changed significantly, and that people are really feeling as though that the service is a part of the community. And we're seeing officers out there more. The chief is everywhere. I laugh at him like that. He says, "I'll never be a politician." I'm like, "You aren't a politician than you think you are." He's out there as a community ambassador, and we're seeing that whether it's at the officer level and in a white shirt, or if it's our frontline patrol too, we're really seeing that community engagement. So I just, on behalf of the board, I just challenge you to continue to look at creative ways on how we can engage with the community that we serve to make sure that they're feeling that their tax dollars are being put to good use, and that they're receiving that top level of service, because that is our mandate here, is to ensure that we provide safe and adequate policing through the CSPA. So on that, I'll look for a member.
Yeah, if you permit me, Chair, sorry.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I just want to thank you for the great work that you and your team have done. We gave you a pretty hefty challenge with the strategic plan, supplemented by the budget that council approved. And a significant part of that was the increase in our complement, both on the sworn side and civilian side. And so great work on hitting our targets, which were pretty high, quite frankly. And I knew it would be a challenge for you and your team to get those. So great work done there. What jumped out at me is beyond those things, you're still able to do the other stuff, right? And I was really pleased to see the work on the co-op programs and the youth and policing initiative. We heard at budget public participations increased concern among the youth for their future in this economic environment, where they're going after school, et cetera. So to see co-op programs engaging with youth, it's a long-term strategy, both for the youth, but also for our police services, and getting the areas where we need to expanding the pool, both from a diversity side, but also from a skills-based side as well. I guess my question is how do we advertise that availability for those co-op positions with students at high school and college, as well as the GIPI program through your chair?
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I'll answer that question. So our members of the recruiting unit, we network with the high school co-op teachers and all of the boards within our city to promote us as a choice for students looking for a career or exposure to policing. So it really is, we attend meetings with them. I don't think they're quarterly, but it's a couple times a year, when all of the co-op teachers and the heads of those departments get together, and we are there as one of the employers to remind them that if they do have kids interested in security, policing, or even if it's not policing, but another role that we have within our building, right? Say like digital content coordination or HR, right? Like we actually have a high school student in our HR area this semester. So it's through working with the school boards. It is our biggest way of advertising.
Well, yeah, just a comment. Yeah, that's great. Terrific to reach out to London Zone to consider careers, staying in London after school. I know we get sworn from the police college, but to encourage, show a pathway, I guess, for people that are unfamiliar with policing as an option, I think is very important. So good job.
Chief, is there anything you want to add on that?
Thank you, Chair. No, just thank Superintendent Cherney and Justin Henry for their leadership in all of our goals and the big demand, and the team that they lead. They're doing incredible work. We don't get to see them every day, but I echo your comments. Chair, thank you for all that you guys are doing.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item number 5 in your agenda, which is the Crime Stoppers Q3 report 2011 CI01. And I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Besson.
Thank you through the chair. Before you have the Q3 report on Crime Stoppers tips received and other markers, overall during the quarter, the number of tips increased very slightly, and the number of charges increased dramatically. However, we have to start fairly small total numbers that we're dealing with. Hence the swinger.
Our attendance just dropped greatly.
Yeah, so other indicators dropped somewhat, but again, we're small numbers overall. I think perhaps for the benefit of the new board member, Crime Stoppers, just a little bit of background. As is in the report, the purpose is for Crime Stoppers to encourage public participation in reporting tips anonymously. Although we have a partnership with Crime Stoppers, it operates at arm's length us and vice versa. We don't have the tipsters identities, so it's an important piece to remember. Although we report on it to the board, it is something that it's Crime Stoppers is a nonprofit run by volunteers, and again, it's an important partnership whose profile we continue to try to elevate. I'll have a little bit more to offer the board in the Q4 report with some recent activity we've been doing with Crime Stoppers. So subject to any questions, that's the report the board's receiving.
Members, questions, Member Stevenson?
Thank you. Yes, through the chair. Thanks for this. I noticed in the last graph on traffic offenses, there's a large orange piece that's new. It says PONs. I just wondered what that was.
Sorry, yes, I should have, that should be clarified. So it's a provincial offense notice, so essentially a traffic ticket. So that indicates that we're there, I guess, to free charge slate, no addition to tips received. Paul?
Yeah, thank you through you. So has something changed that's a newly appearing thing on the graph, or is it just happened to happen this year?
I apologize for, I don't have previous one in front of me. I can't recall. I think mine are, if we have information about traffic offenses where we're able to lay a charge, like in any other case, we would lay a charge. I don't know if there have been any charges. You look at 2023, no tips received. It might even come down to what some of the promotions that Crime Stoppers does in terms of raising awareness, because I think they focus primarily, a lot of people think of property offenses, break and enter, thefts, that sort of thing, but certainly property offenses or traffic offenses are something that we can get, can use information on as well. That's something I could dig into further for the board though in future reports.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Just the last comment on that, traffic is an ongoing concern of the public. And if there's a way that they can participate and be and help in the resolution of some of the concerns out there, it'd be great to utilize them, right? Whether that's, I don't know what's happening here, whether people are sending videos in of offenses or how this is happening, but it'd be great to leverage the public and let them play a role to the extent that they can.
Through the board, through the chair, I think we do receive tips. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we do receive that sort of information through us directly a lot of times. I think people think it's probably a good thing. I don't have those stats, but they come to us with that. We're getting a lot of complaints for erratic drivers and dangerous driving. Certainly Crime Stoppers might be, if you think of a neighborhood concern, you might think of someone who's got a teenager or a young lad of a certain age who maybe drives aggressively in the neighborhood. That kind of thing might lend itself more to a Crime Stoppers tip, because they can a lot of information honestly. However, a lot of that information about erratic drivers typically does come to us. We do get quite it's good flow of information coming to us through directly to us without going through Crime Stoppers.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, I relate.
Through your chair, just a question on the correlation between arrests and charges. So in 2024, there's 21 arrests and 17 charges. In 2025, we have 11 arrests, but 30 charges. Can you explain? I'm just not clear on what maybe the difference is between arrests and charges.
So thank you through the chair. Each arrest, each individual arrested, provided there's, there's evidence to lay the charge, assuming there is, will be subject to at least one criminal charge. But one person could be arrested and charged with multiple offenses. So somebody who's arrested, for example, in the context of Crime Stoppers, we get a tip about an individual who might be wanted, and their whereabouts is made known to us. We take action, and perhaps we identify a vehicle they're driving, pull the vehicle over, make the arrest on a substantive outstanding warrant, but then find out that, okay, there's also drugs in the car, or there's fire on the car, or there's something else. So one individual could lead to multiple charges.
Right, so yeah, just a comment, I guess that just shows the importance of the public participation, not only in a particular area of concern, but it could lead to other things that we're protecting the community on that we can uncover during that investigation.
That's right. That's why I thank you through the chair. It is so important that people do let us know, whether through by calling 911 or a non-emergency number, or in this case, Crime Stoppers, because we like to tell people that no amount of information is too small, because most of the time people don't know the extent to which it might be to something that we're trying to do. And to your point, through the chair, we often come across secondary criminal activity through the course of an investigation of something completely different. Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you. We don't need a motion for that. It's for information purposes. So we'll move on to 6.1 in the public agenda, which is the mid-year performance metrics. And I'm going to turn it over. It's report 2511 EA03. And I'm going to turn it over to the chief.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, pleased to present the 2025 interim organizational performance metrics report. This is just a snapshot of the progress from January 1st of this year to the end of October of this year. The report demonstrates our ongoing progress as an organization towards our three strategic priorities, and that's community trust, organizational wellness, and community safety. As we move through the second year, we're almost done the second year of our 4-year plan. These results reflect not only our operational performance, but also our continued dedication to our members and our leadership team to accountability, modernization, and excellence in our organization. I'm going to highlight some key highlights in front of you within the board report. Our crime severity index has decreased by 6.9%. This is the second consecutive annual decline, keeping London below the national average, something that we are not used to and something that we should be very proud of. We've achieved record levels of community engagement with over 250 events and 45,000 residents reached, representing a 65% increase in community interactions from last year. Service complaints have dropped to 9 so far this year, down from 37 last year, demonstrating improved professionalism and public trust. Response times for our most urgent calls improved again, down to 9 minutes and 1 second. Fatal motor vehicle collisions declining again, the second year in a row, where 2023 there were 22 fatals, and last year there were 12. Year to date, we're at 10. Finally, our visibility in hotspot areas increased by over 20%, showing our commitment to proactive policing. The metrics tell a consistent story, and that story is effort, community connection, and progress amongst multiple fronts. Now, I'll draw your attention to something that requires continued action and continued attention for us, and that's our priority 2 response times. We saw a slight increase compared to the progress from last year. This is primarily due to higher call volumes and increasing complexity of non-urgent calls. We are responding by refining our deployment strategies and continuing to strengthen community partnerships. Some of the things that we are doing to address this and to continue the progress of moving down is increasing our ability for online reporting. By next year, we should be well ahead with a new platform and an opportunity to receive online reports in a more enhanced capacity. And a very exciting thing that we'll be doing is introducing virtual response as a police service. Right now, we're piloting our virtual response with intimate partner violence occurrences where victims and survivors have a choice if their call is not of an emergency or urgent nature, and it meets the framework of our ability to respond virtually. Very good results so far. We're seeing increased satisfaction amongst victims and survivors. We're seeing increased criminal charge rates as a result of virtual reporting. So we've taken what we've learned. Next year, we intend to roll it out to increase this capacity and have the ability for victims to have a choice of reporting virtually or through traditional models. And we're looking at expanding that throughout the organization where we can. So that will have a drastic impact on response times and really ensuring that we are more efficient as an organization and more aware of the community needs. The other statistical metrics that we're also aware of is that the shootings, they've increased from 14 last year to 21 to date. While this figure is higher, it is still well below the peak years from 2021 to 2023, where we saw shootings annually from 27 to 28. The majority of these incidents that we experienced this year were targeted with no indication of general risk to the general public. So we will continue to intensify intelligence-led enforcement and strengthen our collaboration with our provincial partners and our federal partners into combating organized crime and violent crime. These areas are being addressed through data-driven approaches, operational adjustments, and the community as a whole and community collaboration. So overall, this report reflects a police service that is stable, that is improving, and that is accountable. The measurable progress we're seeing across most categories are a direct result of the dedication and the professionalism of our members and the senior leadership team who report to the deputy chiefs, as well as board oversight. A comprehensive full report the board can expect first quarter of next year. Subject to any questions, I'm recommending that the board receive this report for information purposes.
Actually, we're going to change that slightly, Chief. We'll have a motion to receive the report when we're done, but we'll go to questions first, and I assume there'll be a few. So we'll start with Member Morgan.
Well, I have more comments than questions.
Comments or questions?
So I'm gonna do what the chief did, but I'm gonna do it a just slightly different way. I appreciate you doing the year-over-year comparison. To me, a couple of years comparison is pretty important as well, because and I'll be frank, like City Council invested a lot of money in the London Police Service, and at the time I remember saying to the city, we're going to make a transformative investment, but it's going to come with accountability and results. And the chief was absolutely committed, and the command team was committed, and the organization was committed to saying, of course, the board was committed to saying, budgets are about investments. We made a big investment here, cost a lot of money, but we expect results. And I'm very pleased with the results and how it's going. And if I look at this report, even though the year is not over yet, so there's still more time to add to these numbers, it only goes to the end of October, we've already had way more presence in hotspots around the city than we've ever had. So Londoners are getting that presence. Way more engagement with Londoners directly through community events than you've we've ever done as a police service, which is building community connections and relationships and contacts and presence across the city, which adds a sense of safety across the city. The service complaints number, I know you did year over year, but 37 down to 9 this year. If you go back to 2023, when we started the multi-year budget process, it's 65 down to 9, right? This is an organization that has high morale, is operating very professionally, and the public is relatively satisfied with it. And the complaints are not as many as they were in the past because we're out there responding faster. We have more of a presence in more areas of the city. The crime severity index, the context that I appreciated from the chief, but if you look at the data over the last number of years, the Ontario and national trends are going up and we're going down. So not only do we have that decline in crime severity index, but we're actually bucking the trends that are happening in the rest of the province and country, which is even more impressive with the investment that we've made. And I want to say too, on the response times, yes, there was an uptick in priority 2, still down from 2023. And of course, from 2023 to today, we're talking shaving 10% of time off the priority 1 calls. So the lights and siren calls, we're like 10% faster when you need police the most. And I think that makes a big difference, and that can be life-saving in some instances. Even more impressive is the priority 3 calls, which were 5.5 days, down to 2 days down, just 41 hours. I mean, that still can feel like a long time, but we're talking about like a significant improvement in getting to Londoners when they call for police service. And I think traffic enforcement is pretty important. For those of us who serve on council, we get complaints about traffic and speeding and all across the city. When I look at how things have changed in that, going back just a few years, 1,500 warrants, 4,500 tickets, 6,000 total. Now before the year is even over, we're up to 4,700 warrants, almost 10,000 tickets, and 14,700, about 15,000 total. That's almost a 3-fold increase in the amount of traffic enforcement that's occurring out there, whether it's a warrant or an actual ticket. So I feel like people are out, the police are out enforcing our streets, making it safer. And those numbers show very clearly in the fatal motor vehicle collisions. From 2023, it's only 17% down year over year, but if you go back to 2023, it's half, like it's 22 down to 10. Like traffic enforcement leads to people driving safer, leads to less people dying on the street in fatal motor vehicle collisions. And as the chief said, shootings down from the peak in 2023. May have been a slight uptick this year, but we know these numbers are all going to fluctuate over time. And as he said, this is the numbers of shootings were targeted in nature, and that there's not a public safety threat there related to that. All that to say, I want to thank the chief and the team for the incredible work you've done to take a board and take an investment from the citizens of London and actually execute it really effectively on the ground, producing results for Londoners. And I think they could be very proud of this. And I think when we actually get the full year results, we can do the full year comparison, because some of these numbers are going to get even better. You can only do more traffic enforcement. I don't think they've stopped between now and the end of the year. I think people are going to be very proud of the work that you're doing, but also feel like they're getting great value for the dollars being spent. Yes, it was a lot of money, but you're driving actual real value into, I think, London, and giving Londoners great service that they're seeing more often. And you're seeing, crime severity index, violent crime, traffic enforcement up. But the types of things that we want to see are all moving in the right direction. And I just wanted to say, I know it's a little longer than I normally speak at this board chair, but I'm just very proud of the work that's being done. And I'm very thankful that you're executing this investment on behalf of Londoners very well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Morgan. Anyone else, comments? Yes, I guess one thing I'll just note is just to piggyback on Member Morgan's comments. I think it's really important to also hammer home here that this is a 4-year plan. We're not really, maybe halfway if we want to be generous. So there's still, these results should only get better. Now, of course, time will tell, and that's why we're having these reports, and we'll see the next one in Q1 of 26. But there are a lot of good things, like you said, happening here. I really do want to get into the response times, because that's something we heard a lot about during the initial budget deliberations. And I think the fact that we were told that really priority 1 calls, we're not going to get much better. Like, it's going to be kind of where it was, and it was pretty good across the board, right? But the fact that we're down, that we shaved off 35 seconds, think about 35 seconds might seem a long time, but if I sit here for 35 seconds in silence, and then you're waiting for a police officer to come in a life and death call, well, that's a lot of time. So that's an impressive number. More so too on priority 3. We heard a lot about those sort of things where an assault has happened, a bullying situation at school or various other calls that would fall into the dispatch priority of 3. We heard that people were, we can see how long people were waiting. I'll draw your attention to 2023 of 132 hours. And the queue was getting completely out of control. And I think that's something actually we're not talking about right now, is actually the fact that the queue has come down significantly from where it's been. And there's been progress that has been made. The fact that we've gone from 132 hours to 41 in 2025 on priority 3, that's substantial. It's still not good enough, but we've made significant improvements. And again, I'm talking about this because it's a plan. Like, it takes time, and we have to commit. And the chief has asked for that. We've asked as a board, assess us on this budget at the end of the plan. Like, we don't want to be taking resources away here willy-nilly and saying, oh, it's not working after 5 minutes. We want to give this the time it needs to show, and then really evaluate where we are. This is a good touch point, but we still need more data and more time, but it's definitely things in the right direction. And I really wanted to just note that the number of shootings is alarming. The chief and I have spoken about this on multiple occasions. The chief is alarmed by it. We all are. And one shooting is too many. So let's be clear about that, right? But to the mayor's point too, if we look at 21 and 24, we were at 28 at that point in time. So even with all the things going on, the fact that these were targeted, the uptick that we're seeing across the province, because of the proactive work that's being done by the service and the investments that have been made, the numbers are staying stable, so to speak, where it could be much, much worse, where other communities are facing this when we look at our counterparts in the GTA. So as the chair, I'm very much looking forward to the update in Q1 of 26. I'm also looking forward to seeing where we are once this plan is done. And the commitment that was made from the mayor in that original State of the City too was to give this the time. So from a political standpoint, let's make sure that the money can be put to use. And the chief has been asking for that patience and that patience from Londoners, frankly, to say, we know it's expensive. We know that this investment is going to hurt, but this is also what happens when an organization is chronically underfunded for decades. And we try to correct a measure in a short period of time because Londoners didn't feel safe. So again, kudos for what's been done. We look forward to seeing more progress, and this board will wait for that report in Q1 of 26 for further comment. So if there's any other members would like to speak, I'll call for a motion that we receive the performance metrics mid-year report 2511 EA03 and request the chief to report back in Q1 of 26 with an update. Moved by member Morgan, seconded by member Stevenson. Any discussion? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to 6.2. Sure. Yeah. The special investigations unit report. 2511 EA01 and 2511 EA05. They're moved and put on the floor by member Branscombe, seconded by member Lehman. Before I call the question on it, is Deputy Bastille, I'm going to turn over to you for any context that you would like to provide, if necessary, that's not included.
Thank you, Chair. I hope there's fairly self-explanatory in the context. Again, illustrative of the work that goes on day to day. Police officers, some of the oversight scheme that they're rightfully subject to. In both cases, cleared by the SIU and removed by our own internal investigation with respect to conduct and procedures.
Questions, members, on either of those reports? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, 6.3, delegation of signing authority on lease agreements, reports 2511 EA03. And I'm going to turn it over to Director McKinnon.
Yes,
Through you, Chair. This essentially is a request for the board to delegate signing authority to the chair to execute lease agreements in excess of $50,000 for a 12-month period of time. In February of 2025, this board did delegate signing authority to the chair to enter into lease agreements. That authority has since expired. This delegation doesn't relate to any particular lease agreement, but does position the service, should they need to enter into a rental agreement, to be able to do so in between the board meeting cycle. The delegation of signing authority policy that the board has is limited to a $50,000 limit. This would allow the chair to enter into these agreements on behalf of the board in between the board meeting cycle. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion would be that the London Police Service Board delegates signing authority to the chair to execute lease agreements in excess of $50,000 for a 12-month period subject to renewal, moved by member Lehman, seconded by Vice Chair Branscombe. Any questions or dialogue on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. So verbal updates. I'll be brief-ish. I just wanted to note that between meetings, we had our most recent class of recruits sworn in. So on those numbers that we saw out of the HR section today, their good work was seen in person by members of the board that were able to attend. It's one of the best things to do to go in and see the new recruits sworn in and see their families and celebrate that milestone with them. I really just wanted to take a moment to mention the chief and his team. They've really reimagined what those swearing in ceremonies look like, and we've also made a concerted effort to mark the promotions and major milestones of our members that are already here also. And that isn't something that has always happened. So I just wanted to note that I've heard very positive feedback, and it's always good when the board has an opportunity to engage in those ceremonies and speak on behalf of our board. Vice Chair Branscombe and myself attended the International Association of Chiefs of Police conference recently in Denver, and it was an extraordinary conference. The amount of sessions that were there, the amount of police services that were from all over the world and across Canada to learn about new techniques, new policies, procedures, new things that are being done. It was a very good use of time, and also per our previous report that we talked about earlier in the meeting, these are the conferences that have been identified for board members to attend. They're usually here, they're not here today, but I did want to also call out the London Police Association and thank them for the invitation to once again join them at their holiday party and retiree dinner. It was another great evening with, I believe, between 500 and 600 people in attendance. And they always put on a really great event. So I did want to thank them for their hospitality on behalf of the board. And last night, Vice Chair Branscombe, Executive Director Johansson, myself joined the Chief, Deputy Bastine, and other members of the London Police Service at the London Multicultural Community Association Gala, where they handed out scholarships to a bunch of very deserving youth in our community, as well as had very nice displays from different cultural groups within London, and it's always good to connect in those formats outside of headquarters here.
The chief was a star.
He was. The chief was a celebrity at the event as well, including filling a stage for a photo. So I just wanted to thank Jack Malkin and his team there for all the work that they do, and they're a real grassroots-led organization, and it was a special evening, so we thank them for that. And on that note, I will turn it over to our Executive Director for any updates that she has.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep this brief. I mean, my one kind of comment is more directed towards the public as opposed to the board. It's with respect to what the chair mentioned previously in terms of the strategic planning and the community consultations. And I just want to reiterate, in the Community Safety and Policing Act, the strategic planning process falls under the board, and it's a board responsibility to determine the strategic direction, of course, in consultation with the service. But the community engagement aspect of it is extremely important. And this board, was very clear on ensuring appropriate community input and in-person input. So I just wanted to put out there that that's something that, you'll be hearing about moving forward. And also understanding that there are members of the public who might not always feel comfortable providing input to police about police. And that's one of the reasons that it's so important to go and have an arm's length, independent, external consultation process, you know, to make it clear for people who might not feel comfortable providing input, because that's the input that, of course, the board wants to hear. So I just wanted to make sure I reiterate that. And also, I appreciate your comment earlier, Vice Chair Branscombe, with respect to the report and the G20 in the morning. It's sometimes when you live and breathe this environment, you kind of, you know, you kind of forget what you know and what you don't know. And one of the things I'm trying to do on the website for the board is there's a blog section. I kind of write about different things. I know, you know, there's not a lot of people clamoring to read a blog section of the board website, but I think it is a good place to sort of put information like that and add a little bit more context to the work that's being done. So I'm always open to suggestions on what we can put there as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll turn it over to the chief for his verbal list.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple updates. Just want to thank yourself, the Vice Chair, and Executive Director Johansson for joining us last night, supporting the community. It's important for me to note, which I did not know yesterday, that Ozzie Nethersall, part of the association, he was there yesterday, and he has committed, and on behalf of the president and executive director of the LPA, committed to 2 scholarships for some students for school. So that will happen, and great thanks to Ozzie and the entire association. Halloween was very busy this year on Friday, and if you add in the World Series that occurred on Saturday, lots of events and action in the city. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our uniform division, supported by our public order members and emergency response units. They implemented a plan, an operation that focused on Richmond Bar District and other high traffic areas. And a lot of our officers and our members, both sworn and civilian police professionals, adapted really quickly, shifted priorities, and to ensure that we had a strong presence and kept the community safe. So happy to report no major incidents during that weekend, which saw thousands and thousands of people in our city. So just want to thank our members for that. And then I just will close on an investigation that our members were involved with. I'd like to take this opportunity to share with the board, demonstrate a case that our investigators deal with every day. In this particular update for the board, for your awareness, this occurrence involved our frontline officers, specifically responding to an intimate partner violence call for assistance, where a suspect and accused entered the residence of his partner. And while he was not supposed to have any contact and be in the residence, he entered that residence with his partner and the partner's young child. And our officers had to respond to essentially a barricaded situation where you have victims in the residence. And just I want to highlight the incredible work of our frontline members and our particular negotiator at the time, which took 2 hours of de-escalation, communication, patience for an appropriate action plan, which successfully saw the release of the child, the release of victim, and then ultimately surrendering to police custody. So if you will indulge me, I think it's very important for me to share with the board some of the officers that were involved. The 2 sergeants that were involved were Sergeant Reed and Sergeant Doan, and their team of officers, Constable Zaffi, Monroe, Newton, McGoldrick, Aldahak, Delgaitis, I'm butchering all these names, Constable Lapin, Padisic, O'Quinn, Kinnaman and the negotiator at the time, Constable Nicole Tyre. So highlighting to the board, again, the work that our people do every single day that the community may not see. Subject to any questions, that is the chief's approval.
Thank you, Chief. Questions? Seeing none, moving into new business.
Revive this ceremonial donation of a pipe maker's dirt that we referred earlier in the meeting, because it looks like they're here.
And do, it's the will of the board. It's all right to have that in business. Thank you. So on that, I will call on Mr. Greenshields, if you would like to come forward and introduce yourself and explain your presence here today, sir.
Not really sure where to stand.
But where?
You don't seem very.
It's a little bit overwhelming. Anyway, my greetings to the Lord Mayor, Commissioners, and ultimately Chief. Now, by way of introduction, Captain Greenshields, retired, of course. I wore Her Majesty's uniform for the better part of 24 years in various capacities. Nothing quite as serious as what your people here do, but a world based on tradition. I was actually present when your coat of arms was presented many, many years ago. And my wife Debbie is here, and amongst other things, she is the mace bearer of the Royal Heraldry Society of Canada, which has a strong interest in such things. Now, I spent 7 years in a Highland battalion, and we have Scotty over there trying to be very discreet. And in taking pictures and doing things at various veteran events, I've gotten to know Scotty, and I've been very, very impressed with your pipe band. You guys are caught up in the day-to-day business of doing what you do. As a former infantry officer, in the worst case scenario, I was paid to break things. As I explained to one of my cousins once, I wasn't in the business of justice. I was in the business of order. I could give you order. I couldn't give you justice. I was somebody else in the job, like a policeman and a judge. But there were commonalities. We had regimental colors. You have a flag for the police service. The city has a coat of arms. And you had the music. Now, in our world, the people you had to worry about was the commanding officer, the adjutant, who was his executive assistant, and the regimental sergeant major, the Holy Trinity. If you got any one of those three upset, it was time to find a new home. If you got all three upset, pack your bags and go away. Life as you go was coming. Now, everybody fixates on regimental sergeant majors, chief warrant officers. What I find interesting is the fixation with the shouty types. Ooh, he's an RSM. They bark a lot. Yeah, they do, but an interesting individual who has skill set to manage 900 people so that management, the officers, can do their job. Now, everyone fixes on the RSM. The counterpart to the RSM would be the pipe major and the pipe band. The RSM would be the expert in drill, ceremonial, and getting things done. The pipe major is the repository of all tradition and the final arbiter on arguments about why things are done a certain way. So you have a very impressive pipe major over there. And you have a very impressive pipe band. So we've had some chats. Now, where do I put that box? Hand forged from Edinburgh. And
So that's the dirt.
this is a ceremonial dirt worn by warrant officers class 1 and officers, usually above the grade major, because they're very expensive. Now, in Highland tradition, which has been sadly mutated over the years, an oath taken on a dirk is actually more binding than an oath taken on a Bible. And this was worn by a friend of mine who was an officer in the Blues and Royals, Her Majesty's Light Guards, cavalry types. And it came my way. And I said to myself, Because I have one from my time as a Highland Company commander. What am I gonna do with two of them? And I was talking with Scotty and I discovered he didn't have a ceremonial dirk. So in representing the traditions of the London Police Force, and I would note that my grandfather was a cop in Montreal for the better part of 30 years. I had many interesting discussions with him. His world was bound by 10 city blocks. He didn't have a cruiser. He didn't have a computer. My biggest memory of his home office is all his police notebooks spanning his entire career across one shelf, along with first aid books. And every so often he'd get called into the office by his platoon sergeant and basically told, they're getting out of hand in your particular suburb. Because he was expected to know every possible perp, the owners, the businessmen who belonged, who didn't belong. And the platoon sergeant would call him in and say, they're getting out of hand in your neighborhood, leave out. Policing's changed. For a 10-minute contact, you didn't have 3 hours of report writing and putting it into a computer. But the continuity of policing is represented by your colors. The fact you're still here. And Chief, while I should perhaps give it as a donor to the pipe major, that is your pipe major. And I give you this dirk to receive at your hands to your pipe major. Symbol of his service.
Oh, thank you, sir. I enter the arena.
Been here before.
I can't speak eloquently like the captain said, but I know this is very expensive and it is very special. So it is an honor for me to present this dirk to you with great pride and honor. Yes, sir.
Okay. This is in.
Oh, yes. I got it. Sure, you want to jump in? Sure. Go by spider. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You have manufacturing.
Just wait for the. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda. Oh, right at 1 o'clock. Now pursuant to the Community Safety and Policing Act, which came into effect on April the 1st, 2024, Police Service Board shall consider where to close part of the meeting and state by resolution that it will do so, which we have done this morning. We will be doing so once again. So before concluding our open meeting, we will hold a closed, we will conclude an open meeting and then we will hold further closed meetings to discuss confidential labor relations, finance, and legal matters. So can I have a motion to adjourn the public session of the November London Police Service Board meeting and move to a closed meeting pursuant to section 44(1)(b) and 44(2) of the Community Safety and Policing Act, moved by member Stevenson, seconded by Vice Chair Branscombe. Any objection? That's carried. So we'll move back into camera. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming today and we'll see you in our December meeting.